Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so for medical parasitology, there will be 2 lecturers who will cover the subject, which is me and Dr. Shukri. Okay. So through this program, we're going to provide you with basic knowledge on the common human parasites and their relationship leading to disease causation. We will also try to train you to be competent at identifying the parasites. So you will be provided with slides of parasite and you have to identify them. Okay, constantly remind student of the importance of keeping good personal hygienes, cleanliness as emphasized by the Holy Quran, which is a key factor at keeping away from infectious diseases. So supposedly by the end of the course, all of you should be able to describe what is a common pathogenic parasite that are available and important to human. You should be able to identify medically important parasite by using common diagnostic methods that you will learn throughout the course, and you will also be able to solve case study related to medical parasitology. Okay, so this is the list of assessment that will be involved throughout the course. Okay, there will be a lab practical. Um, I don't. Uh, I are you sure that you're going to you will be back to the campus somewhere in April? Dah ada schedule ke?
Dah doktor. Yang latest punya kata kita
Yang
orang balik bulan 7.
okay. It will be in July. Okay. So the lab practical, okay. For now, we will try to make it as a recorded punya practical, because the important things, most important things is for the learning outcome of the subject is you able to identify. So we provide you with the varieties of slides of the parasite, and then you have to identify individually, and perhaps there will be in a group forms of identification process. Okay, so there will be an assignment, individual assignment. You also will be asked to do a group assignment as well. There will be a quiz that contribute 10%, presentation of project 20%, and end of semester examination or final assessment. Okay, so tak ada mid semester examination. Cuma dia ada yang itulah, ada camp yang kecil-kecil di sini. Okay, so kalau ikutkan nature of this subject, saya rasa dah 3 ke 4 tahun. Every time if student get into my subject, whether it's parasitology ataupun entomology, ada public health entomology masa year 3, year 4 nanti, that one tu memang saya, okay, you all tak pernah lagi kan buat game dengan saya kan? Okay, supposedly dalam subjek parasitology ni saya akan ajar you all macam mana nak develop game, board game. Okay, and then board game ni kita akan bawa ke community, dan kita akan buat exhibition lah. So the exhibition, the health exhibition tu will be in the form of game exhibition. So community akan datang main game dengan you all untuk belajar to acquire knowledge on parasites. Okay, on medical important parasites. Will be very interesting, sangat seronok lah. Last time kita pergi live. Okay, so but it seems like this time around, okay, we can go directly to the community to do that community program. But I still try to figure out what kind of program that we can conduct that still will make you available to reach to the community. We can do something online, okay. Boleh create page, kan. Okay, tapi kita akan buat project lah on that, because saya nak you learn how to communicate with the community. Okay, so they'll be very interesting. Okay, so biasanya student yang dah undergo parasitology, sebelum ni public health entomology adalah compulsory subject. But then after we reviewed the curriculum, and then we split, ada diagnostic, ada research kan. So public health entomology tu dimasukkan under research track lah. Okay, so biasanya student yang bila ambil entomology, dia dah ada experience during parasitology, sebab kita akan create game lagi. Tapi yang berkaitan dengan entomology lah. And your senior dulu pernah, maksudnya yang saya dah polish on game development, kita pernah pergi competition, international competition, and we won gold dekat competition, innovation competition tu lah. Kita bawa game lah. Okay. So sebenarnya best lah bila you belajar buat game, and then perhaps you can use that skill also for your future. Mana tahu dia nak jadi game developer kan. Okay, daripada budak-budak main game yang tak tentu arah, so that the game tu yang you create a game that will also instill knowledge to the community kan. Adalah ada input on the health dekat situ. Okay. Okay, any questions so far regarding the assessment? Ada. You all dah tengok ke teacher plan ni sebenarnya?
Dah.
Oh, dah tengok dah. Okay, dah go through ya. Okay, so tak ada mid-sem, ada quiz nanti 10%. Okay. So, first lecture will be covered by me. So, this week juga saya akan releasekan all the related assignment and so ever lah, the instruction for the group work project as well. Okay, dan saya akan gunakan platform Google Classroom for the information dissemination. I will also use the iTaklim, but then everything will be duplicates. But the mainly will be the Google Classroom. Saya pun suka Google Classroom rather than iTaklim. Dia macam lagi friendly. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Kan? Okay, so you're going to use the Google Classroom as well. Anything I will notify your class rep. Okay, Shakira. So she will tell everybody lah on the updates or really pertaining the course. Okay, so supposedly this evening I will teach you on the basic principle and concepts of the parasites, and also how to collect the specimen. So lecture on the techniques lah, skill for the collection, preservation and processing of specimen pertaining the parasitology. Okay, tapi nampaknya saya punya urgent matter yang kuliah suruh saya settlekan tu, saya belum tak selesai lagi. Agak tricky lah, because that document tu adalah untuk ministry. So I need some time to focus. Okay. So kita yang petang ni kelas kita tak buat Okay, so nanti saya integrate lah masa kelas kemudian ataupun masa during lab hours. Okay, you don't have to worry because actually yang this evening session ni adalah untuk lecture on the skill of the lab. Okay, everyone? Okay, so I will settle the introduction for you first. So that after this, Dr. Shukri will continue the lecture and biases. And then sekarang ni saya cuba utilize sebelah kita kalau ikutnya sebelah pagi we have lecture, at the evening we have lab session kan. Okay, I try to utilize both session. Okay, so that there will be 2 lectures in the morning and in the evening. Because saya target you all akan habis all the lectures tu earlier than the other subject. I hope you are okay with that. Okay, so dia lecture habis awal tu bukanlah bermakna you wrap up the subject first, but then nanti you boleh focus on the other methods lah. Okay, so kalau you tengok Thursday ada pagi belajar Tujuh on the ciliates, petang is prozoa, malaria, you can see here. So by 4th week you akan submit individual assignment, and then Dr. Shukri akan habis by week 5. Okay, dia akan bagi intro on the hematology. Then I will continue lah. Dia week 6 nanti belah pagi Dr. Shukri sambung sikit pasal soal transmitted helminth, and then saya akan take over sampai habis course. Okay, starting filariasis, trimatok, cestok saya akan cover. You can see here ada few practical session in between, so that before the Idul Fitri, cuti Idul Fitri tu kita dah settle dah subjek ni. So you boleh raya dengan gembira je lah. Lepas balik raya nanti barulah you boleh study again and again. So week 13 baru kita buat final assessment. So it doesn't mean when we end earlier, so you have to study for the final assessment tu pun saya bawa ke depan. Tak. Okay, so towards the end juga saya letak week 13. Okay, but we will finish all the lecture earlier so that lepas tu you boleh buat consultation lah dengan kami. Okay, are you okay with the arrangement? Kan? Okay. So, without further ado, jom kita start our introduction on parasitology. Okay, parasitology ni adalah subjek saya punya expertise yang sebenar. Yang lain-lain tu adalah expertise, sub-expertise saya. Okay, selain daripada mengajar parasitologi, saya mengajar few subjek microbiology yang you pernah jumpa saya sebelum ni. Okay, and also entomology, itu juga under my expertise. Subjek entrepreneurship, you akan jumpa saya. Biostatistik sebelum ni saya juga mengajar biostatistik, tapi saya dah keluar daripada team sebabnya banyak sangat komitmen. So saya tak mengajar for undergraduate biostatistik, tapi saya ajar postgraduate punya statistik. Okay. So actually banyak subjek sebenarnya you akan jumpa saya. Okay, sebelum ni patologi pun saya ada ajar juga on infectious diseases. Tapi start semester lepas saya tarik diri sebab saya kena tambah pula sahaja untuk community service punya subjek. Ada subjek baru, community service. Okay, so banyak sangat nanti nampak macam gila subjek kan. Okay, so saya bagi peluang kat lecturer lain lah untuk ambil. Okay, so my PhD in medical parasitology. Okay, medical parasitology. So specifically in malaria. So saya dengan Dr. Syukri dulu masa master lab mate. Tapi masa during master program dulu Dr. Syukri buat malaria. Saya masa tu buat microsporidia. So another type of parasite. Okay, but then bila PhD saya buat malaria. Okay. And you know what? Okay, ni saya nak bagi sedikit cerita lah kan. Seronok sikit pagi-pagi. Nak dengar cerita saya tak?
Nak.
Okay, ada tak antara you all ni yang bercita-cita sebenarnya nak jadi doktor?
Ada.
Ada. Tapi
Ada.
kota penuh ke dekat kom? So terpaksa ambil biomedical. Begitu ke?
Tak layak.
Tak layak, Allahuakbar, sedihnya. Okey. Tak apa. Ada sebab kenapa Allah bagi kita tak cukup syarat tu. Kan? Sebab sebenarnya Allah nak bagi tahu jadi memang bukan tempat kita di situ. Okey, maka redha lah. Dan mencari hikmah kenapa you ada dekat sini lah. Okey, so saya dulu sebenarnya memang bercita-cita nak jadi doktor juga. So masa tapi bila saya tengok result tu tak fall flat tu, macam rasa gerun sikit lah nak ambil juga sebab takut kena lelong. Kalau PIT juga, sebab kalau kuota penuh kan, kalau siapa yang ambil pilihan itu dan pilihan kita yang lain tu tak membantu, dia akan lelong je mana-mana subjek masa saya dulu. So saya tak sanggup kena lelong, saya pilihlah subjek yang course yang saya yakin saya dapat. Okay. So throughout the program, of course saya tak ambil medik. Saya dulu pure biology. Saya mencari hikmah kenapalah aku ambil subjek ni kan. Kenapalah ambil program ni. Okay, sampailah akhirnya saya belajar medical parasitology. So bila saya belajar medical parasitology, masa saya macam tiba-tiba macam menjapat satu nur. Tahu, so saya sangat suka parasitologi. So saya kalau parasitologi kalau masuk kelas, kalau saya tak dia tanya soalan tu, dia macam pelik. Okay. So start daripada saya belajar parasitologi ni lah saya merasakan yang saya tahu kenapa saya tak ambil medik. Kenapa Allah letakkan saya tak jadi tak jadi doktor lah. So saya masa tu dapatkan dekat hati saya, okay, I want to be a scientist. I want to be a parasitologist. Okay. So masa tu saya tahun 2, masa zaman saya, masa tu all the subject cramping into 3 years. Okay. So saya zaman yang masa tu matrikulasi daripada 1,5 tahun jadi 1 tahun. Program yang sepatutnya 4 tahun, diorang cuba buat eksperimen jadikan 3 tahun tapi subjeknya, bolutnya sama. So with that saya graduate awal lah. Saya start kerja kayu air umur 23 tahun. You all umur sekarang berapa?
21.
21. Okay, 21 tu saya dah settle dah first degree. So apa ya, dia ada pro and cons lah. Okay, so nak cakapnya masa tu saya dah decide saya nak jadi parasitologist. So masa saya dah final, saya jumpa my supervisor Prof Zainal masa tu yang mengajar saya memang otak-otak profesor lah. Okay, so saya jumpa dia, saya bagi tahu saya nak buat final year project dengan dia on the topic of parasitology. So masa tu Prof ni dia pandai budak-budak for flat dia masa tu tahu. Dia cakap kat saya, score lah dulu subjek saya baru you datang jumpa saya. So saya memang scorer lah subjek ni kan. Okay, even saya ni menjadi mentor kawan-kawan mengajar parasitologi. Betapalah minat ni dengan subjek ni kan. So akhirnya saya jumpa dia, saya beritahu saya dah score dah. Okay, so tak, saya cakap saya bukan nak buat final project, saya cakap saya nak buat master program dengan dia. Nak buat postgraduate study on parasitology. Okay, bila saya dah settle, saya dah score A masa saya final year. Lepas saya settle saya punya thesis, saya buat proposal untuk master siap-siap. So before saya graduate, saya dah settle saya punya proposal master kind of lah kan. Dan saya dah propose dekat dia. So saya start saya punya program master sebelum saya punya convocation. Okay. So this parasitology lah sebenarnya yang menjadi pembuka kepada saya melihat kepada sesuatu yang baru. Tak tampak dah kepada nak jadi doktor tu. Dan sekarang bila saya dah bekerja dah ni kan, I see now why I'm Allah tak takdir saya jadi doktor. Okay. Tak adalah fun pun jadi doktor sebenarnya. Okay. So what is parasitology? So parasitology is coming from the word of parasite kan. Okay. Logi tu kat situ tu adalah it means study. So study ataupun knowledge on parasites lah. Okay. So we want to learn the knowledge on parasites. Okay, so bila cakap pasal parasites, dulu masa you study microbiology, parasitology is part of the microbiology. Okay, cuma dalam the world of microbiology, actually it should cover something yang micro in size kan. Okay, but then parasitology ni dia ada dua benda that we cover under parasitology. Not only protozoa that supposedly we cannot see by our naked eyes, but also it cover the helminthology, the knowledge on helmin ataupun worm. Okay, tapi bukan earthworm yang dekat luar. Okay, so this worm ni kalau peringkat dia young stage, okay, memang we cannot see by our naked eyes. Okay, it's very small in size. Okay, almost cannot see by our naked eyes. But then when it's become the adult, okay, dia memang very visible for the eyes. Okay, boleh nampak. That's why yang kadang tu, I used to see a video, people share a video, orang punya usus dalam tu penuh dengan cacing sebenarnya. Tapi ada orang maksudnya yang use salah guna gambar tu, dia kata okay, inilah contoh usus yang stuck dengan Maggi akibat makan Maggi. Maggi tu you gigit pun putus. Macam mana lah dia punya shape tu masih lagi cantik duduk dekat usus kan. So sangatlah tak make sense. Tu sebenarnya yang sangat banyak yang dekat usus tu sebenarnya adalah worm dah. Okay, worm. So kalau worm yang you nampak dengan naked eyes, okay, visible dekat luar besar-besar tu, that one is not the medical important one. Okay, yang masuk dalam human sebenarnya sama ada dia adalah pada stage egg stage ataupun adalah pada stage juvenile. The juvenile stage ni very small in size yang dia boleh penetrate in our skin without we aware of that. Okay, so what is parasite? Parasite is a live organism. It lives inside ourselves or on the surface, and it will have some metabolic dependence on another organism that being known as a host. Okay, what does this mean with metabolic dependence? Metabolic dependence dekat sini means dia seek for shelter. Rumah kita ni jadi perumah dia. At the same time, we also the provider of the food for the parasites. Okay. So actually, parasite is a weaker organism. Weak lah kalau tak pandai cari makan sendiri kan. Okay, tak pandai buat rumah sendiri. So it have to depend to us. Very dependent. Okay, so this parasite actually is a weaker organism that obtain food and shelter from the association with the host. Okay, it may be a pathogen. Okay, it can be a non-pathogenic. Kalau non-pathogenic means kalau dia masuk, get into our body, okay, perhaps sebenarnya they take something from our body, but not to the extent it harms us. You tak ada sampai develop any symptoms because it just takes very little from you. Okay, so biasanya itu kita cakap non-pathogenic lah because it will not causing us develop a disease. But then bila yang ambil yang overtake, kan, memang betul-betul take opportunity, so this kind of parasite tu will be fall under category of pathogen because it is the association with us to causing us harmful. Okay, so what is host? Host is a harboring species. So we or any animals can be the host for the parasite. So we harbor the species. Okay, basically, okay, the nature of host parasite interaction, it can be divided into three. Okay, interaction yang berlaku, okay, antara benda hidup atau kita bagi symbiosis interaction. The association can happen in three condition. Okay, the first type of symbiosis is mutualism. Okay, mutualism, the interaction is happen when both are benefited. Okay, example here, kalau animal is sea anemone dengan clownfish. So both ni they give benefit each others lah. Okay, I love to give example here for human macam marriage lah, perkahwinan. Okay, marriage. So marriage, when two person meet, okay, and they decide to get married, actually because they found that this relationship actually can benefited each other. So they found the mutualism symbiosis already occur. Okay, so awal-awal kahwin, suami rasa dia compliment isteri, isteri rasa dia compliment suami. So mutualism lah. Anything yang macam bad ataupun weakness tu semua tutup mata. Because you see the benefit that you take from the benefit that you can give to each other tu bigger than the weakness. Okay, than the negative things. Okay, so but throughout the marriage process, okay, sampai satu masa nanti everybody will start showing the true self, kan? Okay, your true colour. Okay, and then perhaps yang suami masa awal-awal dulu rajin tolong kat dapur, Lala dia kata tak payahlah, biar isteri aku buat, kan? Okay, so bila balik pun tak apalah you buat. Tambah bila dah start nanti dah ada anak, so suami dia dia still hidup macam baru kahwin lah. Maksudnya dia tak take part, padahal responsibility tu semakin bertambah. So maybe the wife is still considerate. So dia rasa tak apalah, memang this is dia punya part pun nak kena buat, jaga anak, jaga ni, kan. Suami tak take over pun boleh pejam mata lagi. So dia still rasa unaffected, walaupun sebenarnya tengok tu dah tak senyum cantik dah, kan. Okay, tapi dia still boleh considerate dan rasa tak apalah, kalau tak bantu pun dia buat juga. Okay, unaffected. But throughout dia dah few years tak berubah-ubah juga. Okay, yang the wife pun start rasa exhausted. Okay, exhausted, you rasa suami you macam kekal bujang. Yang you pula dah jadi macam nenek-nenek dah. Okay, tak ada masa untuk diri sendiri. Okay, so you will start being feeling that you being harmed. Okay, so at this stage, the parasitism symbiosis types will take over. Okay, understand? Okay, so dia sama ada you at the stages of mutualism, commensalism, or parasitism, it depend to the individual tu lah. Okay, kalau macam ni yang organism dekat sini, it depend how far yang barnacle ni whale ni akan rasa dia being benefited, ataupun dia rasa whale ni makanan dia diambil oleh barnacle, but dia kata dia akan anggap yang dia yang ambil tu tak effect pun pemakanan dia. Okay, so dia comfortable with that. Walaupun someone dah ambil something daripada dia. But then kalau menyebabkan dia dah start macam dog and ticks ni bukan seekor, dia dah membiak menjadi satu one population, that big population. Dia infested the dog sampai dog ni menggaru-garu sampai dia menyebabkan dapat severe anemia. Okay, because tick ni hisap darah dia. So it causing harmful, kan? Okay, so kalau awal-awal setakat ada satu dua awal dia ada tu, perhaps it's just a commensalism. Okay, so the degree of the parasitism, the degree of the infected, okay, will lead to the parasitism occurrence. Okay, so far faham?
Faham.
Faham.
Okay, clear Okay. See this picture? What do you think is the type of symbiosis happen here? Mutualism, commensalism, or parasitism?
Common.
Common
Common.
solution.
Dia dapat commensalism.
Commensalism. Okay.
Mutual.
Mutualism. Okay, sebenarnya mutualism. Burung-burung ni akan makan kalau ada serangga yang inhabit dekat atas lembu ni. Jadi dia bantu membersihkan lembu lah. Ni seladang ya. Dia bantu seladang ni membersihkan seladang. So tak adalah binatang yang gatal-gatal duduk kat belakang dia tu ada lagi. Okay. So kerbau tu relax je lah. Sebab dia jadi helpers. Sebab dia memang tak nak pun benda yang duduk kat atas badan dia. Okay, so this is mutualism. What about this?
Mutual.
Mutualism. Okay, kenapa you cakap mutualism?
Sebab burung tu akan tolong bersihkan gigi dia.
Ya, betul.
Burung tu dapat makanan.
Yeah. So you nampak dekat sini haiwan yang maksudnya memang sangat gagah perkasa yang memang buas ni masih ada prinsipal tau. Nak cakap dia tak akan makan orang yang dia tak akan makan sesuatu yang bagi benefit dekat dia. So dia boleh sabar tu. Kalau ikut dia ngap dia nanti makanan dia juga kan. Tapi sebabkan dia respect burung ni yang bantu dia bersihkan gigi dia, dia boleh sabar je gitu. Itu. Kita tengok dia pause kat situ je. Okay. Tapi ini adalah mutualism. This condition is mutualism. Okay. So burung kenyang, krokodil pun tak sakit gigi. What about this?
Commensalism.
Common.
Yes. Commensalism. Betul, commensalism. So haiwan ikan kecil ni duduk dekat dengan ikan jerung ni. Jerung ke ni? Ke paus ni?
Jerung.
Jerung kot.
Duduk kan. Dia adalah untuk dah dapatkan perlindungan sebenarnya. Duduk kat bawah tu perlindungan, dalam masa sama dia akan ambil food yang yang terlepas daripada jerung ni nanti. Okay. What about this? Mosquitoes. Yes, mosquitoes and us is parasitism. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to learn first terminology. Okay, so parasite being divided into two, ecto or endoparasite, depend to where it's inhabit inside human, okay, or outside human. So you can see here, this is a tick. Ini adalah tick yang inhabit dekat on the surface of human. Okay, dekat kita punya kulit kan. Okay, kalau dia masuk dia akan penetrate ni, dia akan masukkan dia punya bahagian muka ni. Tapi dia punya body ni akan tertinggal kat belakang. This one in Malay we call as sengkenit. Ataupun ada orang panggil kutu babi. Ada siapa pernah kena sengkenit?
Pernah.
Sakit tak?
Sakit tapi cepat-cepat cabut.
Cepat-cepat cabut. Okay, sebenarnya nak cabut tu pun sebenarnya kalau you salah cabut, it can cause anaphylactic shock sebenarnya. Okay, that is why I remember my husband saya doktor. So anak saya seorang inilah kena kutu babi ni dekat telinga dia. I don't know mana dapat, tak tahulah kat sekolah kan. Okay, so because pada saya kalau tengok saya rasa macam excited. Saya kata okay, ni kutu babi ni. Dulu masa so bila husband saya tengok, husband saya kata okay, kena cari forceps, kena infested dulu letak ni. Dia kata tak pun je lah, bawa pergi klinik. Nanti dia tengok under, dia ada big apa yang kita panggil kanta pembesar tu, kan, yang dekat klinik tau. Dia kata nanti dia guna tu dia cabut. Saya kata tak payahlah, saya pun boleh cabut. So dia kata pandai ke? Saya kata parasitologis kot, takkan tak pandai kan. Okay, so dia ada teknik lah sebenarnya. You cabut untuk pastikan bila sepatutnya bila you dah tarik, you have to observe to ensure that all the legs tu completed. So kita tak ada yang tertinggal lah. Termasuk dia punya sting dia tu yang dia insert inside. Okay, sebab tak ada any reaction, anaphylactic shock. Okay, so saya pernah kena sengkenit ni masa sekolah dulu, masa sekolah rendah. Saya sekolah rendah dulu masuk pengakap, all the activities yang masuk-masuk hutan ni saya suka. Okay, so saya ingat saya pergi satu camping program ni, balik tu saya rasa sakit dekat pelipat kaki. Okay, so saya tengok, saya tak tahu I never know there's a sengkenit tu. So saya tengok macam ada kutil tau. Okay, so saya kata agak-agaknya ini kutil kulit kot. Kulit macam dia jadi berkutil lah. Okay, so apa yang saya buat, saya cari yang what we call that, Hansaplast yang untuk tanpa luka tu kan. Saya letak dekat situ. Okay. Supaya sebab dia saya bergerak, kalau saya tak letak kan, dia menyebabkan saya rasa sakit. Dia setiap kali dia bergesek dengan benda tu. So saya tampal. Selepas beberapa hari, saya buka kan benda tu masih ada. So saya tunjuk kat mak. Mak saya gelakkan saya. Dia kata ni sengkenit ni. Lepas tu dia cabut lah benda tu. Okay. Tapi now saya jumpalah dengan, saya study on that sengkenit. Okay, so bila dia duduk dekat luar on the surface, we call it ectoparasite. So ectoparasite basically is a parasite that lives on the outside of the host. Dan bila dia duduk dekat luar, kita tak panggil infection, kita panggil infestation. So you being infested by the ectoparasite. That is the correct terminology. We never say, we shouldn't say that we being infected with the ectoparasite, but it should be infested with the ectoparasite. Okay. Below is the endoparasite. This is one of which that I mentioned, yang orang kata macam makan Maggi, kemudiannya Maggi tu stuck kan. So this is actually Escherichia lumbricoides ataupun cacing gelang. You can see here, ini kat dalam usus memang kena ni, dan kena remove lah all those cacing. Dia dah sampai stuck dah. Okay, menyebabkan blockage. So what inside here we call as endoparasite. So ecto for outside, endoparasite for inside. Okay. So what about facultative parasite? Okay, facultative parasite is parasite that capable of leading both a free and a parasitic existence. Okay, so it still can survive after the host die. For example, kata amoeba. So meaning this facultative parasite, dia boleh duduk free living kat luar without without human ataupun any host. Dia boleh complete dia punya life cycle dekat situ. Okay, because yang macam yang tadi ada certain dia tak boleh complete, and for endoparasite, most of them tak boleh complete life cycle dekat dalam dekat luar, dekat environment, except kalau dia adalah facultative parasite. Okay, so facultative parasite ni when it get into our body, it become endoparasite. Okay, so terminology tu will be changed according to the situation. Okay, so when we say we are talking about facultative parasite, we are talking about parasite that capable to live free living, okay, without depending to the host, and it also can become a parasitic one when it get into a host. Okay, next is obligate parasite. Yang tadi tu tak perlu host pun tak apa. Okay, this obligate is very dependent, so it will take a permanent resident in a completely dependent upon the host. So kalau tak ada host, dia life cycle tu tak akan complete. Okay, example here is malaria. Malaria parasite which is Plasmodium. Okay, so Plasmodium, kalau dia setakat duduk dekat, sebab dia it will transfer from human to mosquito and back to the human. But then the life cycle tu tak akan completed only in the mosquito. So it need human or other mammals as the host to complete its life cycle. Okay. What is the exsidential parasite? Exsidential parasite ni adalah parasite yang supposedly is not for that particular host. For example, ada parasite yang memang mainly for monkey. Okay, dia memang specific for monkey, malaria monkey. But then because of the stress of the condition of the environment, perhaps the mosquito tu tak dapat nak find any monkey, so the mosquito tu jumpa human, so then it will transfer the parasite, the malaria parasite that supposedly being living inside monkey, now transfer to human. Survive inside human, that is not the original host. Okay, now it become the exsidential parasite. So selalunya exsidential parasite ni lah yang will lead to the zoonotic condition. Okay, zoonosis, penyakit bawaan, penyakit yang transfer from the animal to human. Okay. Next is temporary parasite. Temporary parasite is referring to parasite that is actually free living during the part of its existence. Macam worm lah, most of the worm dia duduk dekat environment kan. But then untuk complete life cycle dia kena masuk dalam human. So human ni adalah temporary host untuk dia juga. So dia adalah temporary parasite because most of dia daripada free living now get into human. Okay. So we have other type of parasite which is permanent parasite. Permanent parasite ni which is kalau dia get into our body, it will die inside our body. Okay, so dia takkan transfer tempat lain dah. Especially those yang bila parasite yang when it get into our body, it will live inside the tissue. So bila dia get into the tissue, normally dia akan jadi tissue parasite and it will be there unless we remove it. So you become a permanent parasite. Pathogenic parasite is the parasite that can cause injury. Okay. Pseudoparasite is actually not a parasite, but we mistaken that artifact as a parasite. Example macam rambut. Okay. Rambut yang mungkin jumpa dalam najis, stool. So sample. So when we are doing the sample processing and we identify what is a parasite that inhabit in that person, perhaps kita jumpa rambut tu juga. Then that actually we mistaken is as a helminth. So that is why you have to know what is the features that you should observe to confirm that is not a hair or it is not a serrate ataupun fiber that coming from foods that eat by the patient. Okay. What is coprozoid parasite? Coprozoid parasite is a foreign species that has passed through the alimentary tract without infecting the host. So coprozoid parasite ni is the non-pathogenic one. Okay. And zoonosis is a term that referring to a disease that caused by a zoonotic infection. Okay. So it can be transmitted from animal to human, not from human to animal. Kalau zoonosis ni means kita refer kepada disease yang transfer from animal to human. Okay. Not the other way around. Okay. What is the geographical distribution for the parasite? Okay, it can be anywhere. Okay, that can be that can be a favorable places for the parasite to survive. Okay, but normally the obtaining condition of temperature and humidity that present will be the main factor for the choose of placement for the parasites. Okay. Even freezing temperature, no force humidity to use previous and prevent general source pollution. Because normally kalau temperature dekat situ tu quite extreme, sama ada terlalu panas ataupun terlalu sejuk. Okay, kalau terlalu sejuk biasanya dia akan masuk dormant stages. Okay, dan dia akan develop shield that will cover dia punya outer layer. Okay, so it will be resistant to that extreme condition. Same goes to the kalau panas lah over hot. Okay, yang high temperature ni normally biasanya kalau macam contoh nyamuk yang that also become a parasite for us, right? So dia akan letak dia punya telur tu dekat tayar, tempat-tempat yang tersorok. So kalau yang parasite protozoa or helminth, so dia akan cari tempat yang kalau cuaca panas, kalau dia inhabit in water sources, dia akan duduk dekat bawah sekali. Okay, so there will be a survival methodology for them. Okay, now we go to the types of host. Okay, dekat sini you akan belajar 3, 4, 5, 6. Sekejap tengok dulu slide tu. That you will learn the important terminology for the host, the definitive host, intermediate host, paratenic host, incidental host, dead end host, and reservoir host. Okay, we start the definitive host. Definitive host is referring to the final host harbors the adult or sexual stage of the parasite. So sometimes in some diseases, human will become the definitive. Sometimes mosquito become the definitive. Okay. So whether we are the definitive or the intermediate host is depend to what stages that we harbor for the parasite. So kalau parasite yang get into our body tu, dia bila dia get into our body it become adult. ataupun it develop the sexual stages, it mean kan for that parasite we become the definitive host. Okay. But if we harbor the asexual stages ataupun dia punya larval stages, not the adult stage, so we will be referring as the intermediate host. Okay. Example here, snail for cystosoma. Okay, dalam cystosomiasis, cystosomiasis adalah blood trematode punya disease. Okay. So dia ada snail yang akan jadi intermediate host. Okay, so from human nanti dia kena get into the water, and then it will get into snail. Dekat dalam snail tu dia akan develop into another stages of life. So dia perlukanlah yang host, second host untuk dia nak develop to the other stages. So what is parasitonic host? Parasitonic host means an animal that harbors the parasite in an arrested state of development. Okay, usually it having acquired the parasite by ingestion of the original host. However, the parasite is capable of continuing its life cycle in a subsequent suitable host. Okay, so biasanya dalam kes parasitonic host ni, okay, host tu bersifat sebagai biological vector. It means dia akan tolong transferkan, bawa parasite itu untuk pergi kepada dia punya real host. Okay. At the same time juga dia akan bantu parasite tu, dia akan harbor. Okay. Parasite tu untuk jadi banyak lah to multiply itself. Okay. So biasanya parasitonic host ni will not affected, okay, with that parasite. So incidental host adalah host yang acquired the parasite by incidental lah. Tadi kita belajar incidental parasite kan. So incidental parasite ni we get into human. So human ni become the incidental host. Dead end host adalah host yang harbors we can consider as the last stages ataupun stages yang kalau they get into our body, it will go nowhere. Okay, so we human yang tisunya being infested by the parasite, we call as a dead end host. What about reservoir host? Reservoir host mean referring to the animal that harbor the same parasites. Okay, and this host ensure continuity of the parasite life cycle and act as additional source of human infection. So example here is rabbit that serve as a reservoir host for Escherichia coli, for E. coli. So biasanya reservoir host ni dia yang akan jadi tempat untuk parasite ni actually maintain the population. Okay, so dia tunggu masa untuk dia serang manusia. Okay, so sometimes we know that there's no more cases of that particular disease, but without we aware, actually there's a reservoir host for that parasite. It's just because the condition of the environment ataupun not the favorable time for it to reveal itself. Okay. Okay, now we go to the life cycle. Okay, there's a two type of life cycle, whether it's directly or indirectly. Okay, directly means a simple life cycle and it will only involve a host. Dia tak ada intermediate host. First intermediate host, second intermediate host, no intermediate host. Only one host involved. So that kind of life cycle we known as a directly ataupun simple life cycle. Whereas for indirectly or complicated life cycle, okay, is a life cycle that involve not only a host, but there will be a 2 hosts or 3 or more hosts. Okay, so far clear?
Clear insyaAllah.
Okay, now we go to the vector. So vector being divided into 2. It can be biological vector or mechanical vector. Biological vector referring to the vector ataupun host that acts not only as transportation but also as the host for the parasite. Okay. Whereas for the mechanical vector, it serve only as a transportation. Dia tak harbors the life cycle tau. Okay. Contohnya fly. So bila dia land dekat atas najis ke kan, yang najis yang ada dekat persekitaran, bila dia land on that, telur askaris ke telur cacing ke apa akan melekat dekat dia punya tapak kaki kan, ataupun dia punya sayap ataupun badan dia. So dia tak harvest stages ataupun dia tak harvest parasite tu. Parasite tu tak akan multiply dekat dalam dia. Okay, so they just carry it as a transportation only. So that is mechanical vector. Okay, so in one organism, actually macam fly ni can be a mechanical vector for some parasite. It can also serve as a biological vector for the other parasite. Okay. Okay, we done on the important terminology. Now we go to the classification of parasites. Okay, so there are 6 important phylum that been covered under parasite. There are phylum Saccharomystigophora, phylum Pseudophora, Epicomplexa, Microspora, S. helminthes, and Platyhelminthes. We start with the phylum Saccharomystigophora. Okay, for this phylum Saccharomystigophora, actually it covered 2 subphylum. Okay, dia combination of 2, which is Sarcodina and Mastigophora. Sarcodina is amoeba. Amoeba, can you start imagine the amoeba yang something ada irregular in shape kan? Macam tapak Sulaiman. Paramecium, macam paramecium. But paramecium is not the pathogenic one, okay? Tapi you bayanglah that the image. But then paramecium ada cilia ya. So it's not amoeba lah, okay? So dia ada false feet. Whereas for the flagellates ni dia ada appendages, whip like appendages that we known as flagella. Okay, flagella dia boleh jadi satu, boleh jadi ada satu dua. Okay, dia macam ada ekor lah. Ada ekor. So this amoeba and flagellate is fall under Saccharomystigophora. So supposedly when I mention Sarcodina atau Mastigophora, you dah boleh start membayangkan macam ni rupa dia. Satu yang irregular in shape, okay, dia berjalan dengan pseudopods. And then another one is flagellates yang ada flagella. Okay. Then the second phylum is Coeliophora. Dekat depan pun ada cili kan. Coeliophora. So cili ni referring to the cilia. So dia ada banyak bulu-bulu yang halus seluruh badan dia. Okay. So bukan nampak macam ada ekor, tapi nampak macam ada bulu lah seluruh badan. So that is Coeliophora. Example here is Balantidium coli. Okay. Next is phylum Epicomplexa. Okay, Epicomplexa ni ada sporozoa. Dia ada sporotypes. Okay. So biasanya Epicomplexa ni they will have complex life cycle because it will involve sexual and asexual punya generation. Okay. Example here is Coccidia. Biasanya this Epicomplexa ni will inhabit in blood and tissue. Okay, what's other Epicomplexa? It also involve malaria. Malaria pun ada sporozoa. Okay, yang mana yang undergo complex life cycle tu most of them are under that involve blood and tissue, kerana dia berada under Epicomplexa. Okay, the last for the sporozoa is Microspora. Okay, phylum Microspora. So this is a very tiny one. It just like a spora juga, but very micro. Biasanya shape dia tu macam circle ataupun oval in shape that normally we will misdiagnose it with bacteria. Okay, selalu orang misdiagnose lah. And this Microspora sebenarnya paling weak berbanding yang lain. Okay, dia adalah yang paling weak sekali. Dan biasanya dia akan inhabit orang yang memang immunocompetent. Okay, so ini adalah opportunity terbesar lah. Kalau orang tu memang, yelah orang yang macam ada AIDS kan, and dah bila dia punya immune system dah deteriorated, dia dah sangat weak, Microspora yang very weak ni pun boleh inhabit dia. Termasuklah Candida albicans. Candida albicans biasanya dia hanya mampu inhabit kat luar. Tapi untuk patient yang memang immunocompetent macam HIV patient, okay, sampaikan Candida albicans tu boleh masuk dekat dalam badan juga. Okay, next is phylum S. helminthes. Okay, for phylum S. helminthes, S. helminthes is referring to the nematodes. Nematode ni adalah roundworm. So you bayangkan macam tadi saya tunjuk cacing gelang kan, dia cylindrical in shape. Itu adalah S. helminthes. It round, elongated bodies with coiled tail. Dia ada sex separated, ada male and female. Okay, dan selalunya male memang smaller than the female. they are living, they are free living in the environment. But then it needs human to become the adult one. Okay. The life cycle involve intermediate as well as definitive host. And normally human is the definitive host because the adult stage will be developed inside human. Okay. So under Phylum Helminthes ni, the important class is Nematoda atau nematodes, roundworm. Okay. The last one is Phylum Platyhelminthes. Nama pun flat kan? Flat. So it flatten in shape. Okay. So flatten in shape, it be divided into two, whether they are trematodes ataupun flukes ataupun cestode that we know as tapeworm. Okay, so sama ada ia trematode ataupun cestode is depend to the morphology of it. Okay, so tapeworm ni tapeworm for cestode Kalau flukes ni, ada slide lagi tak? Okay, flukes ni you nampak dia adalah macam daun. Okay, daun kan flat kan? Okay, it leaf like. Okay, then it's hermaphrodites. It mean dia dalam satu one organism tu dia ada dia punya testis dan juga dia punya ovari. Okay, so dia undergo self fertilization. That is flukes. But for the cestode, tapeworms ni, dia are elongated, ribbon like. Okay, dia ada kepala, ada leher dan juga ada badan. Dan badan dia ni we know as a proboscis. So proboscis ni dia segmen-segmen tau. So segmen body ni yang paling dekat dengan dia punya leher, neck dia adalah yang the youngest one. Dia immature one. Yang paling baru dekat situ. Semakin, so the new one will develop continuously from the neck. Akan bentuk new segment. So yang all the segment will be at the end of the tail kan. Dekat bawah akan ada yang the matured one. So yang matured ni nanti bila kita kata matured, it mean setiap segment tu dia ada testis dengan ovari sendiri juga. So it will undergo self-fertilization in each segment. So bila dia dah matured yang dekat bawah, dia akan detach segment tu. Dia akan pecah ke rupture and then the eggs tu will be released. That one tu yang akan bind dengan kita punya stool. Patient stool lah. Okay, for that infected person. So perhaps in the stool, you will not only see the eggs yang dah pecah ataupun you akan jumpa segmen tu. Okay, the proboscis. Oh sorry, bukan proboscis, proglottis. Okay, proboscis tu adalah apa ni? Adalah organ untuk menghisap darah bagi jamuk. Okay, so it's proglottis. Okay, now I just have 5 more slides for the introduction for the intestinal amoeba. So for the amoeba, we start with the Sarcodina. Okay, we are going to group all these parasites according to the habitat inside human. Okay, whether dekat intestinal, tissue, blood. Okay, so we start with the intestinal amoeba because when we group it according to the habitat, you akan start nampak dia punya similarities. Okay, and will be easier for you to understand and distinguish or find similarity between each parasite. Because nanti banyak sangat nama parasite you akan belajar, tapi macam mana nak bagi dia systematic dalam fikiran you kan, untuk nak groupkan dia tu, kita kena belajar macam ni lah. Groupkan dia according to the habitat inside the human. Okay, under intestinal amoeba, okay, there are few amoeba that actually can inhabit human. But among us, okay, only one is the most important one that to date being known as the pathogenic one. So yang the rest tu, it become just common cell. Okay, they take something from our body, but we can say that we're not going to be affected with the presence of it. Okay, so the most important is Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, so this is the all the amoeba that I listed before. So amoeba have two stages of life, whether it become trophozoite or become cyst. Okay, so among all, there's one amoeba that have no cyst stages, which is like Entamoeba fragilis. So dia hanya ada satu stages je. Okay, so amoeba ni tak ada male, tak ada female. Okay. So it will transfer from cyst or trophozoite. So cyst ni adalah stages yang very resistant, very strong. So these stages will be available in the environment. Okay. So dia ada double layer seduduk dekat environment. So you have to be able to distinguish how the cyst look like between different amoeba. So kalau you tengok kat sini Entamoeba histolytica, the cyst stages process ada 4 kan? 4 nucleus. Okay, ini yang the matured one. So perhaps you akan jumpa ada yang only one nucleus because it's not matured enough. So what you have to do when you screen the slide, okay, the slide you kena observe berapakah nukleus paling banyak yang dijumpai. Okay, so if the maximum one is only 4, most probably it is Entamoeba histolytica. So how we differentiate between Entamoeba histolytica with Entamoeba hartmanni? Because you can see here, right? Hartmanni also have 4 nucleus. Okay. So how we differentiate is due to the size. So that is why in parasitology, knowing how to measure the parasite also important. So there are a slide that we know as micrometer that we will put inside our objective lens and then we calibrate dekat dia punya stages tu pun akan ada dia punya slide yang with a ruler. So we need to calibrate what we see at the objective lens and the stages. Dekat stage pentas mikroskop tu, after calibrate we can use what we see dekat eyepiece tu untuk measure dia parasite. Okay. So far ada soalan? Masih boleh mengikuti?
Masih.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, so Entamoeba histolytica, when it is in the environment, so it is in a cyst form. So once it get into our body, into human, it will release dia punya shield tu and it will start transform into trophozoite. So trophozoite ni sangat fragile. Tapi bila dia dah release dia punya shield, dia akan jadi sangat mudah, dia jadi sangat mudah bergerak, that will enable it to penetrate our mucosa cell. Okay. Okay, so this Entamoeba histolytica, it can cause diseases that known as amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery or amoebic hepatitis. Okay, so it also known as Entamoeba dispa. Okay, but normally Entamoeba dispa ni we recognize as the non-pathogenic strain of Entamoeba histolytica. We nampak dia punya morphology tu resemble exactly like Entamoeba histolytica. But then orang yang be infected tu tak ada apa-apa pun, konsekuensi tak ada symptom pun appear. Okay, so this Entamoeba histolytica actually is the most pathogenic intestinal amoeba found in human. Okay, the life cycle is trophozoite and cyst. It have a wide geographical distribution. Any water sources it can inhabit. Okay. Okay, so this is the picture of it. What do you think? Is this a cyst stages ataupun trophozoite stage?
Trophozoite.
Yeah, this is the trophozoite stage. Okay. So nampak dia elongated kan? Yang this one. Okay, so trophozoite stage. So this one perhaps the cyst stages yang belum develop into the trophozoite. Oh, tiba-tiba saya punya ni tak, tangan saya basah kot. Okay. Okay. So the cyst stages, okay, we let us learn about the cyst stages of the of this Entamoeba histolytica. Sorry everyone, sekejap tangan saya berpeluh. Jadi saya punya pad ni dia tak boleh nak detect gerakan saya. Tak boleh bergerak. Oh my god. Okay. So, trophozoite stages, okay, bila trophozoite stage, okay, it will only have one obvious nucleus here, okay, yang you nampak macam spotted tu adalah red blood cell sebenarnya. So the presence of the red blood cell tu adalah antara karakter for the trophozoite of Entamoeba histolytica. Okay. Assalamualaikum semua.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Aduh, Masya Allah. Waktu macam ni lah, laptop tu nak start pula. Saya punya laptop sekarang saya tengah restart, dia stuck tadi. Saya tak sangka pun cakap seorang-seorang. Sabar je dah korang. Dah habis dah saya punya lecture. Okay, tak apalah. Saya rasa are you okay kita we end je sampai sini. Next week nanti kita sambung lah, insyaAllah. Boleh tak semua orang?
Boleh doktor. Boleh doktor.
Yeay.
Minta maaf sangat-sangat. Okey, setakat yang tadi saya sampai mana tadi? Entamoeba histolytica sempat tak?
Sampai dekat potek
Gambar RBC.
RBC tu.
Dekat gambar
Dekat
entamoeba histolytica.
Trophozoid tu.
Oh, dekat trophozoid. Okey. Yang gambar yang ada elektron mikroskop tu gambar besar. Gambar image di bawah
Gambar yang
mikroskop tu dah. Okey. Okay, so entamoeba histolytica ni akan menyebabkan amoebic dysentery. Okay, so entamoeba histolytica ni bila dia jadi trophozoid, dia akan penetrate kita punya cell wall. Okay, and then dia boleh travel melalui sel darah dan pergi kepada the other part of the body. Okay, so masalahnya ialah bila dia penetrate tu dia akan menyebabkan ulcer terbentuk dekat kita punya sel. So ulcer ni kalau sampai severe, dia akan menyebabkan bleeding. Sebab tu dalam kes jangkitan disebabkan entamoeba histolytica, patient tu boleh end up dia akan dapat cirit-birit yang berdarah, amoebic dysentery. Okay, so agak teruk lah. Jadi kalau kita screen, kalau kita buat x-ray, you boleh nampak ada macam flash shape of ulceration dekat dalam usus. Okay, so kalau dia merebak ke ada part of the body, duduk kat paru-paru, duduk dekat liver, duduk dekat brain pun boleh, dia akan menghasilkan ulceration yang sama juga. So it can, dia boleh menyebabkan mild punya symptoms atau boleh menyebabkan severe condition juga. It depend ke mana dia travel throughout the body. So tak boleh take lightly lah jangkitan yang disebabkan entamoeba histolytica, because the potential to be spread to the whole body tu adalah sangat tinggi. Okay, how we acquired this entamoeba histolytica punya infection adalah through contaminated food and drinks. Okay, yang ada the 6 stages of the entamoeba histolytica. Okay, so that's why kena masak properly air, makanan pun kena masak properly. So kalau dia contaminated dengan water yang ada cyst ni, itulah dia punya konsekuensi dia. Sangat teruk lah. Okay, so that's all berkenaan dengan entamoeba histolytica. So life cycle dia ada 2, trophozoid and cyst. Okay, we finish lecture for introduction of parasitology. Any question? Tak ada. Clear Okay.
Clear.
doktor.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your patience. Okay, throughout this synchronous class. Okay, I will share with you the recorded version, ataupun mungkin nanti kalau saya rajin nanti saya buat video baru lah kot. Okay, tengok nanti kalau saya boleh edit mana-mana yang patut-patut lah. Okay, so thank you again. We don't have any lecture in the evening. Okay, tolong doakan saya dapat selesaikan konsep paper ni. Aduh, dengan keadaan laptop yang stuck macam ni pula kan.
Amin.
InsyaAllah, thank you. Okay everyone. Assalamualaikum. We end our lecture with Surah Al-Anfal Tasbih Farah.
Terima kasih doktor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, doktor.
Okay.